Yaffee program on WVNN.
Thursday edition of the Yaffee program. Glad you're with us here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. You know who I am at this point. You know what this show is about. Now, I do have to remind you probably how to spell my last name, Yaffee, but yes, I'm Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience, and it's Thursday. That means Christopher Reed is joining the show. He is host of The Daily Controversy. You can check out his show 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WVNN, or of course, go to his website, thedailycontroversy.com. His podcast is up there, and anywhere podcasts are available. Chris, how are you this morning?
Man, I'm doing good. I'm just enjoying life, and I'm hoping they finally end this Nancy Guthrie thing with some good news, because the news is covering it like nonstop, wall to wall, without any new information. But other than that, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I mean, they know that people will watch. People, it's kind of perverse because nobody loves that someone's been kidnapped, but man, they love to watch these true crime stories, and you add a celebrity aspect, and kind of like what you said, it's just crazy. Because usually in these cases, it's someone that the person knows pretty well, a family member or something. But it got even crazier when they were able to get the doorbell camera footage that was lost, but they were able to get the data and find it. And then, yeah, you see on the camera someone in a mask, gloves, fully clothed, messing with the camera, armed. So, this whole story is crazy.
The funny part about this story, the story's not funny, but the guy that they supposedly thought was behind it, that lived like 90 miles away, he was just some delivery driver. But the reason the cops picked him up is because his mother-in-law said, "That looks like my son-in-law. Maybe he did it." And then, they basically, searched the guy's house and phone, found nothing. But I just think it's going to be a weird Thanksgiving. It's like, your mom, tried to pin a kidnapping and potential murder on me, a few months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be uncomfortable when they see each other again. Although that really does show they don't have many leads, I guess. If that's what they're going after, and that's the latest, they just don't really know who did this.
Nah, I think eventually, most of the time, they find these people, but it's impossible to know whether it's going to be really soon or a year from now. I don't know if the intensity of media coverage is making it more likely. Or if it has very little effect. So hopefully, I hope they solve it, but the chance of somebody coming back with no proof of life and no contact after 10 days is, I've never heard of that happening in the United States for someone over 80, but there's always the first case. So hopefully this is that.
Yeah, hopefully. I agree with that. I want to talk about another story here. Definitely a tragic story, another tragic story, unfortunately, this time out of Canada. But we're finding out new details about this. And just a crazy case, but it says a lot. It reveals a lot about what's going on, not just in Canada, but our culture, our country. Now, I'm going to read some of this from the Daily Wire. It says, deadly Canada school attacker was trans-identifying man, police confirm. So the 18-year-old man who attacked a rural Canadian school identified as a woman and had a history of mental illness. That's what law enforcement confirmed on Wednesday. Now, police identified the man who opened fire at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in British Columbia, killing 6 people. The person who did it was found dead at the school, was beginning to transition about 6 years ago. So, and I've seen video now on social media of this person, and obviously they knew for a while this person was disturbed. But apparently they thought to help him was to help him transition and give him a bunch of pills, and it seems like this guy just should not have been on the streets. And just how many stories have we had like this lately? With two aspects. One, the trans aspect, but also just where there are just so many red flags, and somehow these people remain on the streets. Well, what do you think about this, Chris? I know you've been keeping up with it.
Yeah, in the last 2-3 years, there's been about 8 to 10, depending on how you define it, of LGBTQ, but most of that was trans. And think about this, even under the Biden administration, they said that the average person that identifies as trans has 4 to 6 unassociated mental disorders. Of course, they're not unassociated. This is all connected. And so, this This guy, they obviously social transition, likely fill them with all kinds of hormones, which we all know. Like, if you fill kids with hormones that are very dangerous, can cause long term effects, but also have a huge effect on mood. That's what, like in the early 2000s, we used to hear about roid rage, but that was because men would be taking steroids and then they get massively violent. Now, you pump kids up with mass amounts of estrogen or mass amounts of testosterone, and they're already struggling mentally. And then you tell them that, there's a trans genocide going out there, that basically saying if people don't use your pronouns the correct way, then they want to erase you. I mean, this is the Democrats and I guess the leftist party in Canada is pushing these kids to the brink. And in Canada, they called this man a guns person because they couldn't say guns man or gun woman. And the reason they did that, I didn't even know this, it's actually illegal. Like, it's a criminal statute if you misgender someone or don't use the right pronouns. Like, you can legally kill a family member under the assisted dying law, abortion up to 9 months, state will pay for it. But if you misgender somebody one time, you can go to jail. And they were more concerned about not misgendering a mass murder. I mean, this guy killed between 8 to 10 people, 25 others injured, more people could die. And the only thing that the cops cared about wasn't like finding out the why or was anybody else involved. They really cared about getting the pronouns right. And this is why Canada is such a joke. I mean, people don't respect Canada. Definitely Trump doesn't. It's because they've gone so far left that this is their culture. And British Columbia is like one of the more conservative areas compared to like Quebec and some other parts. So yeah, this is happening all over, while Europe is basically saying we're not doing this stuff anymore. They're banning this transition stuff for minors and not giving hormone blockers to kids anymore. Like, Canada is going full bore, and the blue states in the United States where they're fighting this, they're still doing it. The only people like trying to stop this are Republicans in the United States, and Trump's doing a great job. But you're just going to continue to see these stories because you got seriously disturbed people, and you're telling them lies about this. They're being genocided, and again, this is inevitable, and I think the left knows it's inevitable, and I can't understand why they're doing this to these kids.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: Are we at a tipping point? It's hard to tell about Canada. I don't know if they're at a tipping point in Canada. Maybe this becomes a tipping point. But are we at a tipping point here? I mean, you have the election of Trump. I think one of the main reasons Trump was elected is a rejection of the radical left, like you were talking about. But you also have a plastic surgeon group recommending against this, especially for minors. You have states winning the issue in courts, banning this, especially for minors. You have lawsuits in place against those who do gender transition surgeries and everything else. It does seem like the backlash against this stuff, which has grown in recent years. I mean, are we at a tipping point? Or is a lot of this stuff going to be banned and we're going to go against this in our culture in the next few years?
I mean, yeah, the plastic surgeons came out. The AMA modified its statement. I mean, it still basically said, but in some cases. But yeah, surgeons, and I'll tell you why the surgeons came out. They tend to be more conservative. Like, surgeons are the most conservative of all the doctors, the most liberal of all the doctors, which you guys probably knew. Are psychiatrists are number one, pediatricians are number two. So those are going to be the most radical left woke people. So if you got kids and you got a pediatrician, pick carefully. And I mean that really seriously. My dad's a physician, and he knows the situation going on. And it's really hard to find a good pediatrician who's not like trying to push woke ideology in this country. But yeah, we're at a tipping point, and I think what's going to help is the lawsuits. Now, I think the lawsuit in New York was a good start, but we need a lot more, because the more lawsuits, the higher the malpractice coverage, and at some point, the malpractice coverage will be so high, the cost-benefit analysis will make it where these people won't do these procedures, not because they're good people or because they care about kids. It's because they don't want to lose money, and it's sad that that's what it's going to take. But yeah, the more we win, the more likely that this is going to go away. So I think we are at a tipping point, and I think depending on how the next presidential elections go, I think if Republicans win at 28, yeah, this will go away throughout the United States for sure.
Okay, so Canada's probably a little bit behind, but as you mentioned, in Europe, they were actually ahead on this. Sometimes Europe's behind the U.S. or whatever, but when it came to this issue, they're pretty much ahead. But this also means that the left, the radical left, they're going to want to fight back extra hard in the coming years, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, their fundamental ideology is that men can become women and that reality doesn't exist and perception creates reality. And they're not going to stop. Like us winning elections is not going to change their fundamental views of life. So it's kind of we have to win and they have to lose scenario. I hate that it's that way, but it really is because, I mean, elections used to be, I mean, they're always important, but if Clinton won or George H.W. Bush won in 92, it wasn't the end of the world. It was just a different time. Now it's so important because you're talking about tens of thousands of kids that could be exploited and manipulated and basically destroyed if Republicans were to lose. So yeah, I mean, these things are incredibly important, but the public is with us. I mean, these are like 80, 20, 70, 30 issues. So I do think that if Democrats are smart, they would just stop talking about this and stop trying to, push this, but the radical leftist base won't let them. And the number one donor to Democrat primaries is LGBTQ activist groups.
Speaking with Christopher Reed, he is host of The Daily Controversy. You can check out his show 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WVNN. We have a lot more to talk about. I'm going to ask him a little bit later on if we need to ban some of these congressional hearings. Not ban them, but not televise them because they've gotten crazy. We also have the push to pass the SAVE Act. The House passed it last night. Does have a chance of passing the Senate. We have some Alabama news to get to, and I do have the Alabama bullet points coming up next as well. So you want to stay with us throughout the whole show today. This is the Yaffee program. Back in a moment.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. Yes, on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Don't forget, you can always listen online at WVNN.com, the iHeartRadio app, the WVNN app, or any of your smart devices, however you want to listen, or the podcast later on. You can find that on the website as well. Christopher Reed's joining the show. We're going to continue our conversation with him in a little bit because really is a lot to discuss. But right now, let's get to the Alabama headlines. We have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, Senator Tommy Tuberville is calling on state lawmakers to pass the PSC utility reform package. So Tuberville, who is probably going to be Alabama's next governor, publicly urged Alabama state lawmakers to pass a bipartisan 3-bill utility reform package. It's dubbed the Affordability Protection Plan. Now, he emphasized the need to prioritize the future of Alabama residents amid an influx of companies relocating to the Southeast and rising demands on energy infrastructure. Tuberville criticized the current elected Public Service Commission for failing to adequately control utility rates and imposing excessive regulations, stating that the ineffective commissioners that are responsible for that need to go immediately. He says, quote, "We need to focus on the future of the people in Alabama." So I think that'll help it pass. Number 3 today, Alabama Republicans helped pass the Save America Act in the House, so now it's headed toward the Senate. We're going to talk more about this in the next segment with Christopher Reed. But the U.S. House of Representatives narrowly passed the Save America Act on February 11th. It was by a vote of 218 to 213. This Republican-backed legislation aims to enhance election integrity by requiring voters to present photo ID when voting, proof of U.S. citizenship, such as a passport or birth certificate when registering to vote in federal elections. It also mandates the removal of non-citizens from the voter rolls. Supporters, including Alabama Republican Representatives Gary Palmer, Robert Adderholt, Barry Moore, Mike Rogers, described it as a straightforward, common-sense measure to ensure only American citizens participate in U.S. elections and prevent non-citizen voting. Now, the bill heads to the Senate for consideration, where it faces potential challenges, probably a filibuster, everything like that, as you know. Number 2 today, both Alabama U.S. senators are backing the Clear Labels Act. It says if someone is taking drugs from China, they deserve to know. So Alabama's Republican U.S. senators, Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt, are co-sponsoring the bipartisan Clear Labels Act. It's the consumer labeling for enhanced API reporting and legitimate accountability for base entity listings. Now, it's introduced by Rick Scott out of Florida and Kirsten Gillibrand out of New York, so it's bipartisan. The legislation requires country of origin labeling on prescription drugs and their active pharmaceutical ingredients to increase transparency in the drug supply chain, which often relies heavily on manufacturing in countries like China and India. Now, supporters argue that patients, pharmacists, and providers deserve to know where medications come from to make informed decisions about safety and quality and make concerns over foreign dependency and potential risks when it comes to this. So we'll see if it passes. And number 1 today, Attorney General Steve Marshall is calling for more ICE agents in Alabama to vigorously pursue dangerous criminal offenders. So Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, who is also running for the U.S. Senate, has called on the Trump administration to deploy more immigration and customs enforcement agents to Alabama. He urges increased funding, manpower, and resources to expand operations targeting dangerous criminal offenders who violate immigration laws and endanger families. Now, Marshall highlighted recent cases such as the arrest of illegal immigrant Juan Carlos Guerra for kidnapping a mother and her 2 children. There was also a prior incident involving a 6-time deported individual attempting to kidnap a teenage girl that happened in Elmore County. Now, he blames these events on open border policies under the previous Biden administration, criticizes Democrats for prioritizing criminal illegal aliens over American citizens, and contrasts Alabama's willingness to partner with ICE against resistance in places like Minneapolis. Now, just so you know, Marshall expressed pride in collaborating with ICE and pledges to advocate for stronger enforcement to protect Alabama communities if elected to the U.S. Senate. By the way, something we can talk about later as well, because looking at the latest polls, we see it's a much closer race between Barry Moore and Steve Marshall. That is because, of course, the Trump endorsement. But Jared Hudson's still there. I talked to him on the show yesterday. He actually said a lot of great stuff on the show yesterday. So if you missed that interview, the podcast is up. So yesterday I interviewed Barry Moore and Jared Hudson. So the podcasts of both of those interviews are on the website or anywhere you get your podcasts. Right now, I got to tell you about Larry's Pistol and Pawn. What are we, 2 days away from Valentine's Day? How many of you guys out there just heard that and you were like, oh, I better go get something for my wife or my girlfriend or my loved one. But where do I go? You know where to go. If you listen to this show, you know the best place to go is Larry's Pistol and Pawn. If you go to the Madison location, they have a great selection of jewelry. I keep telling you. I'm going to tell you all the people I know who have gotten jewelry there. I did. I bought my wife diamond earrings there a couple of years ago. I did that for Christmas, and she loves them. And the only reason I got them is because I could afford them there. Most likely, they would have been too expensive anywhere else. So they gave me a great deal. Now, my mom got a sapphire ring there, and it didn't fit her, but they resized it for her, which is amazing. My mother-in-law got earrings there, which is really great. I had several coworkers go there. In fact, Tori used to work there, I know, got rings there that she was able to use for her wedding a couple of years ago. I've had other coworkers go there. Emily went there to get one of her rings fixed. So, I mean, there's a reason why they all go there. There's a reason why if you go to the store, the parking lot's always full. There's a reason why it's busy, because the customer service is amazing. They know who you are, and they help you out with whatever you need. So go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn in Madison off Greenbrier Exit 3 next to the big Rusty Water Tower. There is another location in Huntsville off North Memorial Parkway, and you can find out more on their website, pistolandpawn.com. That's pistolandpawn.com. When you go, make sure you tell them Yaffee was the one who sent you. So will the SAVE Act actually pass the Senate? Now, Chris has been joining the show. He has been calling for abolishing the filibuster. Tuberville has as well. Barry Moore, who is running for the Senate, he wants to abolish the filibuster. I think Jared Hudson told me yesterday he wants a standing filibuster. So if there is going to be a filibuster, they have to actually stay there and filibuster. and we'll see what happens. It does not look like Republicans are going to abolish the filibuster as of right now, which means that the SAVE Act is probably not going to pass. And as you know, Democrats have made two arguments against it, one calling it racist, two saying Trump wants to nationalize elections to steal them. So I'll get Chris's take on that, and we'll play some audio of some of the lawmakers talking about it. You are listening to the Yaffee program. We'll be back.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Mic Drop, hosted by former Navy SEAL Mike Ridland.
What does it mean to be an American?
Be American is you love your country above all else.
I love this country. I was born here, raised here. I offered my life to serve this country.
And if you don't do your part to preserve what we have here and our culture, it's going to be gone. And we can't let that happen.
Yeah, that's Mic Drop.
Mic Drop. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN. Back here on the Yaffee program. It's a revolution in common sense. Doing my part to make radio great again, as you know. Christopher Reed is here as well, host of the Daily Controversy. He's doing his part to make radio great again. You know, in the Alabama bullet points, I was talking about this, but I'll give you more details here because the U.S. House of Representatives narrowly passed the Save America Act yesterday, bringing the country one big step closer to more secure elections. Now, I'm reading some of this from 1819 News. The bill passed 218 to 213, would require photo ID to vote, proof of citizenship to register to vote, and remove non-citizens from existing voter rolls. So people who voted for it, Congressman Robert Aderholt out of Haleyville said, "I'm proud to have voted yes on the Save America Act to ensure that American elections are fair and free." Barry Moore said, "Only American citizens should vote in American elections. It's that simple. I urge the Senate to pass the SAVE Act and send it to the president." And I see here Congressman Mike Rogers said, "I'm voting in favor of the Save America Act because American elections are sacred and we must guarantee their security." So I'll play more audio on this in a moment from other lawmakers. But Chris, I wanted to get your initial reaction. The SAVE Act, now called the Save America Act, passed the House. At least one positive step here.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing about all this. It's got to pass the Senate. I think Republicans, they said, well, we can't cut the filibuster. Okay, well, then do a standing filibuster. Make the Democrats have to actually stand on the Senate floor and talk about it. So at least, even if you don't pass it, you'll have, 30 hours of them screaming against voter ID laws, which again are 83% popular. It'll make them look petty. You can use that in elections. So there's no downside. It needs to get passed, but if you run on this issue, you can make Democrats look awful. If let's say the midterms turn out in a way that we don't expect, like Republicans actually pick up seats, and this is one of the issues that voters really cared about, and that could be huge. Plus, if you look at our base, they are highly motivated. And the thing that wins midterms is having a highly motivated base. It's really not the independents that vote as much in midterms. That's more presidential elections. It's who can get their base out. So there's no downside to forcing the Democrats to do this. At least if Republicans put in a huge fight and they don't get it, they can run on this and say, we need to pick up more seats in the Senate. This is how we're going to get this passed. This is about America's future. And then you can still do the too big to rig thing. Now, Democrats are going to use fraud, foreigners, and cheating. They've done that for, 50 years. But I think if you do that, if you actually make them fight for it, it makes them look really stupid and petty. And it's exactly what we did in 24 with the, trans and kids issues. We made Kamala and the Democrats look completely insane. that was a 2.7 percentage swing, which was the difference between winning the election and winning the popular vote and losing the election and losing the popular vote. So Republicans are going to have a spine and at least be willing to fight on it. And I think that they will do that at least. But if it was me, I would just get rid of the filibuster. The Democrats are going to get rid of it once they come to power again. And this is worth it. This is one of those things that's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, you've been calling for that for a while. I know, as I mentioned, Barry Moore calling for that. Tommy Tuberville is calling for that. I just, I don't know if they have the votes to do it right now. Real quick, you were talking about Democrats and what they're arguing about this. If you can, Walker, play the Chuck Schumer cut. This is the minority leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, on this bill.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yep.
I guess we don't have it. No worries.
So,
yeah. Well, I know what he said.
Neither
you can't find it.
Go ahead. I mean, I know he said it was Jim Crow 2.0.
He said Jim Crow 2.0, but Lee, I think what's his guy's Jamie Raskin. He said if they pass the Save Act, women will not be able to vote. It will end the 20th Amendment or the 19th Amendment. And I was just thinking, like, all this thing's requiring is that you have a birth certificate, right, which anyone can get very, very easily, or a social security card, and you got to have an ID. And that's just for registration. Like, if you're going to register to vote, you have to show that you're a U.S. citizen. And then when you actually vote, all you need after you've done that, all you need is an ID, because once you've registered with a birth certificate, it's not like you have to bring it every time. And he's saying, it's going to be so difficult because women get their names changed. But women have to get new driver's license and different passports. They've been doing this for millennia. It's not it's not a big deal. It's very easy.
You literally could do it while you're doing the other stuff. They have to do it anyway for their driver's license or something. So just do it, register to vote at the same time too. Yeah,
think about this. Like, we've had over 1 million Americans die in wars over the last, 200 plus years. And, we ask everything of them. They lost their families' lives. I mean, we had a ton that were seriously injured. And the Democrats are saying, well, a lot of people may not vote because it may take them an extra 20 to 30 minutes to comply with this. And I'm like, so you're telling me, it's not worth, you participating in a free country is not worth 20 to 30 minutes of time. And this is a one-time thing, right? Once you get your birth certificate and everything else, you do it one time, you're set for life, right? It's not so, and we know that illegals are voting. The Secretary of State of Maine admitted to it. And the reason Democrats don't want this, it's not because they're getting half their votes from illegals, but in close elections, even if it's 3%, that 3% swing is the difference between us having 57 senators right now and 53. And I guarantee you, if we would have passed the SAVE Act before the 2024 election, and you would have been able to have the registrations done, I think we would have 57 senators right now and probably 223 Republican House members. And the Democrats know that, because if this didn't affect outcomes, the Democrats wouldn't fight it. It's an 83-17 issue. The only reason they are fighting this is because they know it's going to cost them seats, and it only costs them seats if people are cheating. People are not stupid. Otherwise, they just pass it.
All right, so go ahead and play that Chuck Schumer cut. I know you found it, Walker.
Seas could get shut out. That means Americans who have trouble leaving their homes could get shut out. That means rural Americans could be shut out of our democracy. The SAVE Act would introduce the 21st century equivalent of a democracy that tolerates literacy texts.
So he's saying there that troops overseas could get shut out, which I'm pretty sure there's a provision in the bill to help them. When it comes to mail-in ballots or whatever. And I heard you laughing, chuckling behind him there, Chris, because you obviously disagree. Kind of what you were saying in the last, in your last point, that they're grasping at straws to why this is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, people don't understand. Democrats, it's not. People are like, why they lie so frequently? Do they not know? I was like, they know. Lying is the point. They've lied about everything for so many years now. The Russia hoax, the laptop, the COVID situation. Oh, you're never going to get COVID if you do this. I mean, they'll lie whenever it's convenient. They don't have any moral qualms with lying. And it's been effective for them. I mean, they lied about, we're going to drop affordability. Well, actually, in the states where they elected Democrats in New Jersey and Virginia, they've had affordability go down precipitously versus before when they elected these super liberals. So it doesn't matter like what they're saying. They'll lie about anything because they know the base of their voters. I'm not talking about like the moderate, free thinking ones, but like the hardcore ones that vote in primaries. They're gonna vote for him no matter what. So they'll tell him whatever lies they want, and it's crazy. But remember, Schumer, he has to take the most left-wing stance possible because he wants to keep his seat because he's going to have to go against AOC likely. And so for him, it's like he will do anything because he loves power that much. But at the end of the day, he's going to lose that seat, and it's not going to make a difference. But we have to pass this or at least fight for it, because if we don't fight for it, our base is going to abandon us at the midterms. And I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, and talking about fighting for it, let me play Mike Johnson. So it was passed in the House yesterday, and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson talked about it after it was passed. Walker, go and play the Mike Johnson cut for me.
Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling, because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense. House Republicans tonight stood with the overwhelming majority of Americans who demand secure elections.
So, and then I thought Steve Scalise also made a good argument. He's in the House as well. Play the Steve Scalise cut for me, Walker.
You know, as Chuck Schumer calls it, Jim Crow, where was Chuck Schumer when you tried to get into the Democrat National Convention in 2024? Guess what? Chuck Schumer made you show a picture ID to get into his own convention that he's calling Jim Crow.
So, I mean, that's a good point. Even to get into a convention, you have to have an ID. I mean, now, I know when Chuck Schumer as well was talking about, it's going to affect service members if we do this. Trump actually addressed that. I mean, when he was talking about it. So go ahead real quick, Walker. Play the Trump cut one.
We want people to have voter ID. We want people to have proof of citizenship. And we want to have no mail-in ballots other than if you're in the military or you're sick or you're away or some reasonable but good excuse.
I mean, so, yeah, Chris, I hear that, and it seems like kind of what you said. Democrats are lying. They're making it seem like it's going to be this terrible thing when even Trump's like, of course, there'll be a way for the military to do some type of mail-in ballot. Of course, everyone wants that. But we can't just dump millions of mail-in ballots into a system like is being done, especially under COVID, because it breeds distrust. Even if there isn't enough fraud at the time to overturn an election, it makes people distrust the system. And we have to be able to trust it, right?
Yeah, and I think there is enough fraud, not necessarily to maybe a presidential election, but definitely enough fraud for a bunch of Senate seats, House seats, and those ultimately will determine the future of the country. So, yeah, and also him talking about military members, I mean, Republicans win active duty military by like 20 points. So, if anything, Chuck Schumer would love it if military people can't vote because it always helps our side, right? There's no way that we're not going to be accommodate, a huge part of our base. I mean, that's insane. And he said, what about rural men, people in rural areas? That's like 65%, 35 Republican Democrat. Like they are making arguments to our base, and those people overwhelmingly want this. So they are just kind of, they know they have no argument. So they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hopefully something sticks, but I don't think it will. So we got to fight for it.
Christopher Reed is host of The Daily Controversy. Check out his show 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WVNN and at thedailycontroversy.com. Got a bunch of people weighing in on the text line, the Yaffee text line. If you want to weigh in, you can. 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. That's brought to you by RegenesisStemCell.com. Go to RegenesisStemCell.com today. Make an appointment if you deal with arthritis, if you deal with back pain, any kind of joint pain. For me, it was back pain, neck pain I dealt with for years. But you get the stem cell treatment. They use your own body's adult stem cells. It's non-invasive. It's not some kind of serious surgery. And you're back to work the next day, and I was, but it changes your life. So sometimes you have back pain, you're like, I'm going to have to get a major surgery. I'm going to be out of work for weeks. It might not even work. It's very, very risky. I want you to try this option first if you can. So go to RegenesisStemCell.com. I want you to talk with Dr. Charles Lee today and see if you can get relief for your pain, your arthritis, your neuropathy if you deal with that. RegenesisStemCell.com. Let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
And
welcome back to the Yaffee program. We are here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. You can always weigh in on our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. One person weighed in here and said, hey, Yaffee, why don't we just, we can keep the filibuster, says, but make it a standing filibuster? Why is that so difficult for folks to figure out? Now, that was something Jared Hudson said on my show yesterday. He's running for the U.S. Senate in Alabama. The only point I'm making is because of the makeup of the Senate right now, you still have moderate Republicans in there. I just don't think it's going to happen. Either change to the filibuster because of the Mitch McConnells, the Susan Collins. But what do you think, Chris? I mean, it just seems like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree with you on that. I think they will do the standing filibuster because there's so much pressure from base like senators. So they're going to have to at least put an effort forward. So, and that, as far as changing it to standing, that's not really controversial. And because, again, you're not changing filibuster rules. Democrats can still filibuster all they want. You're just making them have to show up and talk, right? It's not like they can't filibuster. So I would expect that. I would expect Thune to do that.
You mean for this bill or for everything moving forward?
Oh, for this bill. I mean, you could do it really for you could say we're going to do a standing filibuster for this, but again, it doesn't actually change Senate rules. The original Senate rules were standing filibuster. Actually brings them back to what they were for over 200 years, right? So it's not really changing. And again, you could just enact it. You could obviously enact it for one piece of legislation because, again, it's not changing the filibuster. It's changing sort of the application of the filibuster. It wouldn't be an issue. So, yeah, I think Republicans will do that because they're not. It's not that they want to. The squishes want to. It's that they know that they have to because they want to win the midterms. Like, they're not doing it because they're great people. They're doing it because they're looking at internal polling. And internal polling showing if they don't do something on this, it's going to decrease turnout. And even the squishes want to win.
So, in the last segment, we were talking about one of the main arguments by Democrats. It really kind of switched. It's funny how this works. The memo goes out and the argument switched. But, a couple of weeks ago, the argument really was that the SAVE Act is racist. And then all of a sudden it switched. And I guess part of this was because Trump made a comment on it. But now they're saying that, well, this is about Trump wanting to nationalize the election to steal it because Trump will steal the elections. Now, there are some conservatives out there who are nervous about going down this road because it sets a bad precedent for the future, too much federal control of the elections. But what do you think, Chris, about that argument? I mean, to me, it was just funny, too, that the memo went out and all of a sudden every Democrat was saying that line.
In the Constitution, Congress has the ability to regulate all elections for federal office, and they have. I mean, one of the problems with like the Motor Voter Act, which we've talked about many times, I think it was like 94, that made it very they made it almost impossible to force people to show ID or something like that whenever they register to vote unless states wanted to, which was just obviously terrible. So, and there's a million other things that Congress has done when it comes to federal elections. This doesn't nationalize elections for federal office are already nationalized. They've been nationalized since the institution of the Constitution. All this does is add a requirement to registration and to voting. But I mean, I give you 100 examples of Congress toying with this and doing some things. We've been doing it for 250 years. So, the idea that this nationalizes something, it's already nationalized. It's already under control of Congress. So it's a stupid argument, but Democrats are counting on the fact that most of their voters don't know anything about the Constitution or how the government's structured, and that's a good bet.
Well, and it's incredibly hypocritical because Democrats literally did try to nationalize the election. In fact, it was H.R. 1. It was like one of their first bills under Joe Biden. And that was to do the opposite, right? That was to get rid of voter ID requirements. So there were some states that already have it. And then they tried to nationalize it basically in a way so states couldn't do that. So it doesn't sound like this is about any kind of principle. And I don't really know how implementing a voter ID would help Trump steal an election. I mean, how does that?
It's the
how does
exact
that help
opposite.
Trump? How does that help him steal an election? I don't get it.
Yeah, well, if by steal an election they mean it's not fair because the people that we pay to cheat won't be able to vote, then I guess it's stealing an election. But no, all it's going to do is have accountability. They know that accountability, even the most mildest, easy to comply with accountability, they're going to lose at least 1% to 3% in certain states. I mean, there's no doubt. And they know in swing states where the margin of victory is 1% to 3%, that's the difference between a majority and being in the minority. So, the only way this would be stealing is if you think that it's wrong to only allow Americans to vote. If you believe that, which many Democrats do, then I guess it's stealing the election. But it's funny addressing their arguments. It's like addressing the arguments of a toddler, right? I mean, they make statements, but it's like you're not going to reason with them. So Democrats, it's not about like trying to meet them on the intellectual battlefield of ideas, because you can't do that when someone is lying intentionally and they have no interest in the truth.
Yeah, we can actually talk about that issue later, because there was a school that canceled an event that was about debating, similar to what Charlie Kirk used to do. And they were afraid. And, obviously the left intimidated them. It's just sad. We'll have much more next on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
The CJ Pearson Show.
Every week, we'll take on the biggest cultural, political, and moral battles in America head on.
CJ presents the most passionate voices in the Black community.
When you're going around and talking to people in actual communities, you get to know what people actually care about.
As a Black man, why can't I be the first one in my family to graduate from college? Why can't it be me? Shift the way that I think about the world.
Bold truth, real conviction, zero permission. This is the CJ Pearson Show.
The CJ Pearson Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee program on WVNN.
Second hour now on the Yaffee program, right here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. I am Alabama's voice of reason. Going through some of the news that is definitely beyond reason today. Don't forget to like the Yaffee Facebook page. Follow me on X at Yaffee, or go to Instagram at Yaffee Live. So yesterday on the show, I talked a little bit about the crazy hearing with the ICE chief. And now we had another crazy hearing yesterday with Pam Bondi. This one really more over the Epstein files. Let me read some of this for you from Fox News. It says the Bondi hearing devolves into chaos as AG accuses top Democrats of theatrics, which, I mean, yes, that's what was happening. Too many of these hearings are just theatrics at this point. It says here, Attorney General Pam Bondi's hearing before the House Judiciary Committee Wednesday devolved into a chaos of shouts and interruptions as she clashed with several Democratic committee members. Several Epstein victims were present in the room during Bondi's testimony, and Representative Pramila Jayapal asked Bondi to turn around and apologize to them directly, allegedly failing to protect them amid investigations. Now, Bondi, of course, rejected the premise and accused Jayapal of resorting to theatrics, which, of course, she did. And I want to play a cut of Bondi here real quick. Can you play the Pam Bondi cut for me?
This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents. We were given 30 days to review and redact and unredact millions of pages of documents. Our error rate is very low. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster.
All right, Chris, so before we get into the details, once again, of the Epstein stuff, I do want to ask you, is it time to not televise these hearings? And I have to admit, I'm a little torn on that because I believe in transparency. But there's a part of me that thinks it's just not worth it. Maybe we just release transcripts or something. But what do you think, Chris?
I don't know if the problem is that. I mean, like, it's kind of important that for transparency, you have some, I get the Democrats are going to lie and act like idiots, but it really wasn't. C-SPAN didn't create this. It was more of social media because they want like 30-second clips of like, because you can edit it to make yourself look amazing.
Right.
So I don't think that's the issue. I think they need to just institute rules of decorum and enforce them, meaning like you can ask questions, you can be aggressive, but like you can't be like that lady that said, you're going to hell because you work for ICE, or like Jayapal, who is a communist. Like, again, you can ask aggressive questions, but you can set your own rules as the head of the committee. Set them and just be very, very intolerant. Like, it's going to be for everyone. If Republicans do it, they're out. But like, you get one warning, second warning, you're out. You're going to have the sergeant at arms, whoever's in the committee. You're done. There's no question. And do that. And once you kick people out, they'll realize like, well, you're not going to get your viral moment because we're just going to kick you out. And if you do it too many times, we're going to kick you off the committee.
You know, I got to say, it's actually a pretty good idea. I didn't really think of that. I was trying to think of ways to do this. Of course, it makes you wonder, because this happens on both sides, right? So it does make you wonder who's ever in charge of the committee. Are they going to be more lenient to one side or the other, and who can be crazy? But you say just pass some rules generally right now to prevent some of this from happening and have real consequences is basically what you're saying. Talking with Christopher Reed. He is host of The Daily Controversy. I think we might have disconnected with him a little bit. Chris, are you there? All right, while Chris reconnects here, we'll probably have to reset because I'm not hearing him. I just want to give an example of one of the crazier parts that happened yesterday during the hearing. Go ahead, Walker, real quick. Play the Jamie Raskin cut for me.
You acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover up. I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation.
All right, so that was Democrat Jamie Raskin during the hearing. Oh, Pam Bondi, the Trump administration, they're covering this up. Of course, they didn't care. They didn't care when Joe Biden was not really focused on this. But what do you think, Chris? Why Democrats are still obsessed with this Epstein stuff?
The funny thing is 90% of the people that are getting hit by it are Democrats. I mean, the Europeans got hit by it. Keir Starmer might no longer be prime minister in a few weeks because of it. You had princes and people like that in Norway. I mean, these are almost exclusively Democrats. It's the only person that's on the right that looks really bad is Steve Bannon. Like, that's the only guy I can see. But they think they can, it's the same thing with the voter Jim Crow 2.0. They think they can just say Trump's involved no matter what the evidence shows, right? It doesn't matter that Chuck Schumer took thousands and thousands of dollars from this guy, or that the head of the House Minority Leader, Jeffers, asked him for thousands of dollars after he was convicted of sex crimes. They're just going to lie and say Trump's somehow involved, even though Trump didn't have any communication with this guy for over 23 years. I mean, like, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, well, yeah, the obsession with Trump does seem to be kind of a part of this. And it's also that social media aspect. For some reason, this gets a lot of attention on social media. Now, give you another example of a Democrat kind of going crazy during this hearing. Go and play the Ted Lieu cut for me. This is Congressman Ted Lieu.
I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. As we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
Now, Ted Lieu is usually insane in so many different ways. Just follow him on social media. But it's like, this was all kind of predictable. I mean, even the Associated Press reported that the FBI, as it's stated in the files, did not have enough evidence to charge a bunch of people in some kind of mass conspiracy sex trafficking ring. They had enough evidence to say that Epstein himself was involved. And it might be true that there were other people involved, but that doesn't mean there's evidence of it that they can actually charge someone. And I remember saying at the time, I was like, do people honestly expect that when the files are released, we're just going to start rounding up all these powerful people and arresting them, putting them in jail over some of this stuff? If the FBI, if the Department of Justice had evidence to do that, they would have already done it even before the files were released. So what do you think about this, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, they had the records for all of Obama's term, basically, because he was convicted, I think, in 2007, so that was 8 years, and that was most of the records. And under Biden, like, he was dead. Like, he died, 2018, 2019? So they didn't do any of this. And even the victims, like, you've heard very little from the victims. And Matt Walsh said it best. He's like, if you have evidence, you can accuse. And people are like, well, what if they get sued and defamed and all this stuff? I'm like, Elon Musk has said that if anyone makes accusations and they get sued or anything, he will pay their legal bills and all costs. So that's not the issue. Elon Musk Epstein's also dead. So what's he going to do from the grave, right? And so to me, it just seems like, this is a op. This is a political op, because no one's stopping anybody from saying, I was a victim of this. I was a victim on this date. And this is, here's my evidence, and just writing it down, tell people. Everyone would print it. They would be heroes. They could potentially get tens of millions from an estate, because you can still sue people's estate after they die. So at some point, there's nothing we're going to release at this point that is going to be something that a victim doesn't have access to, meaning that they've combed through all of these, and there's a lot of horrible things in here, like people that had relationship with this guy that shouldn't, but there's not going to be any criminal charges, because if they had those, they would have gone after those people long ago. And like I said, as a retired attorney, you can hire an attorney, go after these people, and if you have any evidence, even crap evidence, you can get tens of millions of dollars. So people that believe, oh, we're going to release the files and we'll finally find out. No, that's not how it works. If those people are still alive and they want to make those accusations, you could do it today. You could find 1,000 lawyers to pay, and if they try to go after them or try to sue them, 100% of the legal fees will be covered, 100%. So it's an op at this point, and I'm fine with them releasing it, by the way, because it's hurting 90% of the left. So release all of them. It's not really hurting Trump or the right, but still, like, people that truly believe we're going to find out all this stuff, if it hasn't come out by now, it's not coming out. 100% guaranteed. People can say what they want. It's not going to come out.
So I wanted to give another example, just I guess out of fairness, I don't know, but Thomas Massie, a Republican, has also been kind of going crazy over this, but this is someone who has been obsessed with this, and he really doesn't like Trump as well. Go ahead and play the Thomas Massie cut for me.
Because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr.
Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time back? Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
Kentucky. All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that?
If
it's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get. You're a.
So at the end, I wanted to play the whole thing just to kind of show you how crazy this was going. But also at the end, she goes, he had Trump derangement syndrome. Is that what you think here, Chris? He just has Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, look, Wexner is a huge Democrat. He's given tons of money to Democrat. He hates Trump, hates all Republicans. Why would they intentionally redact something negative about a political enemy And Thomas Massey knows this. He's not an idiot. So, yeah, you're talking about millions and millions of pages, and you're trying to make sure you don't go after victims. And apparently one name got redacted that maybe shouldn't have, and they fixed it right away. I completely believe her. Like, it wasn't a Republican they redacted. They have no incentive to redact this guy's name. They hate this guy, and that guy hates the Trump administration. So, again, Massey is insane. I can't wait till he's out. He's such a terrible representative. I'll be so glad when he's gone. Just an awful, awful person.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I knew that would get you going, Chris. I knew that would get you going.
I was so angry, yes.
Christopher Reed joining the show, joins me every Thursday. This is the Yaffee program. We'll be back here in just a moment.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. I am Alabama's truth czar. This is Huntsville's disinformation board. And it's Thursday. That means Christopher Reed is joining the show. Don't forget, you can listen to his show 8 to 10 p.m. on WVNN or check out all his stuff at thedailycontroversy.com or at WVNN.com. Chris, we were talking about the hearing with Pam Bondi yesterday. The day before that, Todd Lyons, who is the head of ICE, spoke in front of Congress, says, well, things got crazy there. Had to play this cut for you. I posted it on my social media as well, but really had to get your reaction here. So go ahead if you can, Walker. Play the McIver cut, the LaMonica McIver cut for me.
Mr. Lyons, I've heard my colleagues ask many questions over and over again, and you cannot answer them. So let me ask you some questions that you may be able to answer. Mr. Lyons, do you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, how do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh, okay, of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not. How many government...
The gentlelady will suspend.
How
The gentlelady will suspend.
Chairman?
A gentlelady will suspend. As I said, the issues we're debating here are important to ones that members feel deeply about.
Thank you.
While vigorous disagreement is part of the legislative process, members are reminded that we must adhere to established standards of decorum in debate. The witnesses are here voluntarily, and I will continue to remind members that while oversight is important, aggressively attacking those witnesses personally is inappropriate and not in keeping with the traditions of our committee.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking a question.
She's asking a question there, Chris. So this is a common tactic by some Democrats lately. We had Governor Andy Beshear say the Christian thing to do is to trans the kids, I guess. And now we have another Democrat member of Congress say this is the Christian thing to do, is to not enforce immigration law, and you're going to hell if you are. And then you have, of course, some people go into a church in Minneapolis and claim they're not real Christians because of all this stuff. What's your reaction?
The person who knows Scripture better than anybody besides God is the devil. Like, when he was tempting Jesus in the wilderness, he didn't quote from, like, the book of Satan. He's quoted from the Scripture. Same things with these leftist Democrats. They all pretend like, oh, Jesus would do this, Jesus would do that. I mean, this is what communists always do. They twist the Scripture to people that don't really know it that well, and they say, well, wouldn't Jesus do this? I'm like, yeah, no, borders actually make a big difference. In fact, they were actually in Jerusalem or Bethlehem for his birth, because there was a census. They were trying to take stock of who was there, who was not. And the whole idea that Democrats have anything to do, like at least their party platform has anything to do with Christianity, it's laughably stupid. I mean, you're talking about abortion on demand till 9 months, like you said, transing kids, stealing private property. I mean, some of the Democrats don't even believe in that. So it's insane. It's funny. Like, these people are talking about, oh, you're not really a good Christian. And instead of saying, I mean, you guys have been for 63 million unborn innocent kids have been slaughtered in this country. And you guys think that that's in keeping with Christianity? And so, yeah, I think he was smart not to answer the question. But it's like Thomas Jefferson once said, he's like, I shudder when I realize that God is just. And God is just, and she will absolutely have to give an account to God for what she said there. And I'm pretty sure Todd Lyons is, I think he's a devout Christian, and she's trying to say that because he's trying to get rid or enforce a law and protect people, and the fact that he's gotten murdered down the lowest levels in 126 years, apparently he's going to hell. I mean, it is laughably stupid, but again, for these people, people, you got to realize they hate Christianity. They don't care about it, but they want to convince naive people who still vote for Democrats. They want to give them permission structures, right? So that they can feel good about voting for people that want to mutilate children and kill every baby. I mean, it's insane, but this is who they are.
Yeah, I recently read Ben Shapiro's book. It's called Lions and Scavengers, and he talks about this in the book, that this is what scavengers do. They themselves have no real standards, but they know you do. So they try to tear you down based on your own standards. And it makes no sense because they have no standards. So they think they can get away with it, and they usually don't. Christopher Reed joining the show. We'll continue our conversation with him in a moment. He talked about how Todd Lyons was smart for not answering that question, which he's right. You would be smart if you need a new appliance. You're smart if you go to Jay's Appliance Outlet. They're located in Athens off Highway 72 next to the Pep Boys out there, close to downtown Athens. You want to go there, it would be smart to go there to save a lot of money. If you need a new appliance, they have new refrigerators, they have washers and dryers, they have stoves, ovens, microwaves, freezers, and more for you. And you get them for a great price. Now, you could save even more money because they have scratch and dent deals, or maybe you just need your appliance fixed. They can service appliances as well, and they service what they sell. So if you buy a new appliance there, you can know that it's going to last a long time. They're not there to rip you off. They're family owned and operated. They want you to be able to get a good appliance that's going to work for your family, for your house for a long, long time. So go to Jay's Appliance Outlet over in Athens. I want you to dial pound 250. Say the keyword Jay's Appliance Outlet. Pound 250, Jay's Appliance Outlet. Go today. When you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
It's the biggest game on the planet, and nobody breaks it down like Jim Rome.
Super Bowl run. Who do you think will be the last one standing this year?
Fearless debate and the best callers in sports.
I don't care what you say, defense wins Super Bowl.
That defense absolutely is Super Bowl caliber. The quarterbacking sure as hell wasn't.
He's the Spitfire of sports smack.
A lot to get to, and I'm not sure you're going to like all of it. Honestly, I don't even care if you like all of it or not. I have a job to do.
The Jim Rome Show.
Get up in here.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Christopher Reed joins the show today, joins the show every Thursday. Check out his stuff at thedailycontroversy.com. That's the name of his show. So earlier in the week, obviously, I was talking about the Super Bowl, and I know you've been talking about this as well, Chris. And a lot of people upset at the halftime show. I maybe wasn't as offended as a lot of other people out there. But I understand it, and this is why. There are a lot of people in this country who believe that the Super Bowl is kind of an American institution, It's a very American thing. Football is a very American thing. And they just feel like so many things that used to be considered very American, it's losing that. And now we could talk about some of the woke stuff as well and his comments on immigration and Trump, but it's just overall the fact that it was all in Spanish. And it just didn't seem like they were trying to cater to the American audience. The vast majority of them don't speak Spanish, wouldn't really like this halftime show. But of course, they're trying to appeal to an international audience. And as I mentioned before, a lot of people, a lot of these people that work in middle management, marketing jobs and everything else for the NFL, they went to elite universities and they're part of the left. So of course they're going to push this stuff. But what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the media lied about the numbers. We were talking kind of in the break. So the halftime show is roughly 30 minutes, right? So the first 17 minutes are commercials, analysis of the game, commercials, and then the live performance is only about 12 to 13 minutes. So during the the commercials and the analysis, it stayed pretty. It was going down slightly. It wasn't that much though. But during his singing, the numbers showed about 8 to 10 million people turned it off from start to finish. They didn't turn it back on until afterwards. Now, part of that's because you had a lot of people going to the TPUSA But there's never been a Super Bowl where you lost that many million viewers during a halftime. Usually, a lot of times you'll actually pick up some viewers because you have something really exciting for halftime, right? I mean, Kendrick Lamar, I didn't like him, but he got significantly more numbers if you actually look at his performance numbers for that 13-minute window. So the media was like, oh, well, his numbers are great. Well, his numbers are only great if you pretend like the 17 minutes where he's not on stage and they're doing setup is the halftime show. If you actually look at the live numbers when he's singing, it was the largest drop ever. So the NFL was wrong to do this, and I'll tell you why, because even if they did pick up some Hispanic voters that turned in just for his performance, for example, it was still a huge net loss because they lost overall more fans, right? So that was it was a dumb idea. The NFL knows this, and I'll tell you how it's going to hurt them. What they can charge advertisers is based on last year's Super Bowl because those are the only numbers they have. So next year's Super Bowl, they're going to realize that they're going to be able to charge people less during the halftime because of the precipitous numbers, and it'll put more pressure on the NFL to put a more unifying artist like maybe a Taylor Swift or Jelly Roll or somebody that most people like and listen to. And they can finally use this as an excuse to break the contract with Jay-Z, which was a stupid idea to begin with. So if the NFL is smart, they would do that. Now, if they're stupid, they try it again. But if they try it again, TPUSA is only going to make a lot. It's only going to get double or triple the viewers, and they'll be able to book even better talent. So yeah, it shows that Americans don't like it. Football is traditionally an American sport. They don't like American-style football in South America. They just don't. They love soccer. They love that. They also love baseball. And Roger Goodell, his idea that we're going to expand and grow markets, it's not happening. He hasn't really grown markets. They did in the NBA grew markets in China because they lost a market share here, so it's been great for them. But American football is generally just liked in America, and the only people Australia, England, they have rugby, different things. It really is an American sport, and they found out by doing this, they lost roughly 10 million people during the live performance. It's going to cost them millions of dollars next year. So hopefully they're not stupid, but I just don't know with Goodell because I really hate him.
Yeah, part of it is the leadership at the top. You're exactly right. That probably needs to change. But as I mentioned, it's sort of the leadership in the middle as well. But so you're saying, okay, the viewership went down during the halftime show, which is the exact opposite, of course, of what they want. But you're saying the TPUSA thing kind of played a role in that too? I mean, was it really that, or was it just dislike of it in general?
Both. I mean, TPUSA, the numbers that they're getting from YouTube and Rumble, it's about 6.1 million, but that doesn't include numbers from Daily Wire, OAN, TBN. So if you add those in, roughly around 7 to 8 million live, but there's already been something like 25 to 30 million that have watched the production afterwards, which is really huge, especially for advertisers, and that's how TPUSA makes a lot of money off of that. So they roughly the audience, there's more people just tuned it off than watched TPUSA, but probably 80 to 90% of the people that tuned it off, roughly that same number watched the TPUSA halftime show. So that was a big thing. It sent a message, and nobody thought TPUSA was going to get those numbers. That was the highest, the greatest live view in YouTube American history. There's been other YouTubes that were international that got more, but this was the largest live view in American history on YouTube. So it sent a message to the NFL, and the message is: you guys cost yourself millions of dollars for next year's halftime show, and if you're not stupid, you'll change course.
So did you watch it? The TPUSA thing?
I watched
or
TPUSA, then I went back and watched the Bad Bunny because I wanted to do I had to talk about it on the show.
But you didn't watch it live.
No, I didn't watch it live. I watched it afterwards. But it was gross. I mean, there was a lot of really inappropriate stuff, sexualized content, stuff, LGBTQ stuff that I'm not going to talk about. That was really inappropriate, especially for children watching the show. And when I did translate the words he was saying, I can tell you this: if you or I used the exact same words he said in English, we would get fined. We would get a huge fine because because in Spanish nobody knows. Like most people don't know Spanish. it seems like they just like let him get away with anything.
Actually, I heard they actually did censor those words. That was kind of a misconception that even the Spanish words, they censored it or did something.
Oh, they did? Well, I looked at the words from the songs. He must have heavily edited his songs, the ones he was singing, because the songs are,
I heard
if you think like
yeah.
gangster rap is bad, this is 10 times worse. So, I mean, it's really disgusting stuff.
I mean, it's like obviously they're not, it's not family friendly. So, okay, well, first, I do have to ask, since we're talking about the Super Bowl, what did you think of the game? Not very much, but that's why everyone's talking about Bad Bunny, because the game wasn't very much.
I was so angry. I mean, look, Drake May, he had a shoulder injury they didn't release to the public prior to the betting, which like that made a lot of people upset. And he didn't really. It looks like the shot they gave him to help his shoulder play through the game started working in the fourth quarter when it was too late. So I think that was a big deal. Again, the Seahawks are just amazing. Sam Darnold is not, in my opinion, he's not as good a quarterback, all things being equal, meaning if Drake May had the offensive line that he had, I think Drake May's number would be,
it was the Seahawks defense. I won that game.
Oh, it was a defense. Yeah. It was just frustrating because, even if my team loses, I want it to be close because I want to watch the game. But it's just, lately it's been terrible. We'd love to see it when it's an actual game, but Super Bowls traditionally, like there's a lot of Super Bowls that were blowouts, and it's not supposed to be that way. So I don't know what needs to happen to fix that. Maybe they need to rig it so it's at least a one-score game. I don't really care. If it's more entertaining, go ahead and do this. It's entertaining. But I hated the game. I hated the fact that the Patriots just got pounded. It was 15-0 at one point, and then they scored 2 irrelevant touchdowns in the fourth quarter, which again didn't matter. I guess it made them look slightly better, but it was just a rout from start to finish.
Well, there was like a couple of minutes where the Patriots maybe looked like they could do a comeback, and then he threw an interception. It was a pick six. It was just that was it.
Was it like 7-15 at one point? Like, they could come back and score. Yeah, I mean, that was the closest it ever got. For the entire playoffs, the amount of times that the Seahawks were losing was 1 minute and 26 seconds. So for the entirety of the playoffs, they were either tied or way ahead, except for 90 seconds or something like that. And that was at the beginning of one of the games they played. So they just been so dominant. And I think they're only going to, there's no reason they're not going to get as better next year. The good news is the Patriots, they have plenty of money and some room to buy better players, so they can also get better. Drake May can be a contender. So I think the Patriots could easily get in a Super Bowl the next 2-3 years, and they'd have a much better chance of winning. But, we just had a lot of weird stuff happen with the Broncos, other stuff. So maybe they shouldn't have made it to begin with, but to me, it just seems like you have your chance. You're 23. You almost got MVP. Whatever it takes to win, you need to do it. I felt like Drake May was not ready for that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely a young, inexperienced quarterback. All right, what about commercials? Any commercials you liked?
I thought the Budweiser commercial wasn't that bad. It was a little cheesy with like the eagle and the horse.
At least it was somewhat that, though. Everyone I talked to loved
it. Pro-American. I like the fact that it's pro-American. It was not woke. And I thought the Seinfeld commercial where they like took the Friends people from Seinfeld, and I think Ben Affleck was in it. It was really that was
Dunkin'
really funny.
Donuts commercial. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was really good. I thought that was funny. And then I think there was one with the guy Kevin from The Office that was pretty funny, but the only problem with that one is I didn't really understand what they were selling, so I kind of took points off for that. So there was 3 or 4 of them. I would say this year for commercials was better than last year.
I'd agree with that.
I don't think there was any like amazing ones that everyone's like going to talk about forever. But they had a couple good ones, and there weren't like ones that were just really, really stupid, except for the Sabrina Carpenter one with Pringles. That was one of the dumbest ones I ever saw. It's like you're paying this woman millions to this commercial, and it's a child or AI could have made that.
What about, I like the Jurassic Park commercial with Xfinity. That was a good one. I don't know if you saw that one.
That was really cool. I like that one too. But that was similar to the Dunkin' Donuts one. I like it when they get these really good actors and they put them in like old sitcoms or old movies. For some reason, it works. Look, I don't care if they do it for every commercial. If it's funny, then do it. And Xfinity would have saved the day in '93, apparently. So, oh well.
That's true. It's a good point. Christopher Reed is host of the Daily Controversy. In a couple minutes, we're going to talk with him maybe about a story we missed today. And right now, I got to tell you, what I was sitting on when I was watching the Super Bowl? My Lazy Boy couch. You know where I got that Lazy Boy couch? Of course, you know where I got it. Coleman Furniture Market, located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. Yeah, I was pretty comfy. My daughter as well. Evie was watching the Super Bowl with me, my pregnant wife. She's sitting on the Lazy Boy love seat there. We were all in the living room comfortable. That's thanks to Coleman Furniture Market. If you were uncomfortable during the Super Bowl, not because of Bad Bunny, but because your seat is just old and not comfortable, you need to go to Coleman Furniture Market today in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. You can find out more, see some of the latest stuff at ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. You can like their Facebook page, follow them on Instagram, and they can deliver to anywhere in the state of Alabama. When you go to the showroom, their in-house design team there, they're going to help you out because there's a lot to look through. So they can help pick out what's best for you. Coleman Furniture Market, go today. When you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
2. Or AlexWins.law. Physical office location, Huntsville.
We're here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. As you know, it's Thursday. That means Christopher Reed joins the show. He is host of The Daily Controversy. Check out all his stuff at dailycontroversy.com. And for the last segment of the show, usually I ask Chris about a story we might have missed today. So, Chris, go ahead. What do you got?
Well, I got a couple. Then they kind of are related to each other. There's one that says Orlando's Gay Days event is being put on a 1-year pause because they don't have enough sponsors. So it kind of shows like the radical LGBTQ stuff is kind of dying out because nobody cares if there's, look, if people just want to march in the street and say we want more whatever equality, even though, they basically got everything they want and 10 times more, they can do that. But what Americans don't want, we don't want anything that's graphic or explicit, or we don't want nudity in the streets, like that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. It's not worth it. We don't want it. That reminds
me, sorry to interrupt, that reminds me of what Dale Jackson always says. He says, if the LGBTQ crowd was smart, when they're doing a pride parade, they would have doctors and lawyers and, fairly normal people who just happen to be gay do the parade. And that's how you sell it. But instead, you're right, it tends to be the opposite.
Yeah. If you actually look for support for gay marriage, actually it was going up for like 20 years. The last 2.5 years, it's gone down like 5 or 6 points among Republicans. It's gone down like 14, 15. It's gone down slightly in independents. Democrats basically stayed the same. But because of the radical trans stuff, the people that are just, gay, they're like, you guys are really hurting our movement. So there's that. There was also a story that Miss North Florida winner Kaylee Bush has had her crown basically revoked after speaking out that men can't become women because she just, like the contract that she wanted to go on to the next level, it was something like a Miss America pageant. It says that, men can still be in this as long as they have had like the surgery and have been on hormones. And she was going to sign something that basically said she agreed to that. So they said, okay, well, you're not allowed to go to the next stage. And I thought, like, this is crazy. First of all, these national pageants, people aren't watching them specifically because of this crap. And she won. She spent her whole life doing pageants, and she's just said, well, look, I can't sign something that says I believe in this. It's against my religious beliefs. And they just said, all right, well, you don't advance. And I think that's a great story because people are actually going to know her name because of this. People will remember her for taking a stand. No one's going to remember whatever the pageant was because nobody cares about that stuff anymore. They'll remember Kaylee Bush for doing the right thing. And I think that shows that more people are willing to stand up. Years ago, there was only a couple women you could ever get to speak up against like men and girls sports, right? Now there's a ton. And the same thing with pageants. After they let a bunch of dudes that are gross and overweight into these things, women are saying, no, I'm not going to demean myself. So I think that's another good story. It's also a Florida story. So, DeSantis is going to be all over this. I think this...
Just as someone who's from Orlando, the Gay Days in Orlando became a huge deal. So the fact that, like, they're postponing that's out of Orlando, of all places, that's actually pretty interesting. Because especially after the Pulse nightclub shooting, which, as you and I know, wasn't about them being gay. It was a terrorist attack from someone who claimed to be a part of the Islamic State. But after that, I mean, Orlando tried so hard to be like the next San Francisco on that issue. So the fact that Orlando was the place where they kind of canceled that for a year is pretty interesting, I think, at least.
Oh, 100%. Like and it just goes like what Dale was saying. You go too far, people are going to push back. The final story, which I got a buddy from church. He's a legal immigrant from Kenya. He sent me this thing. Kenyan man who pretended to be a lawyer and won 26 cases. He didn't lose a single case, got arrested, and then defended himself, and he won. And the interesting thing here is, like, this happens. This shows you, like, first of all, if he won 26 cases, he's the most successful lawyer in, like, Kenyan history. Why does he need a license? He doesn't need a license or to go to law school. He's already better than every other lawyer. So having a piece of paper and something, it doesn't really matter. But this is, and I knew the people that complained against him wasn't his clients because he's undefeated, which again, 26 undefeated cases, that's unheard of in almost any country, okay? And it says the reason he got caught, the exposure and arrest stemmed primarily from complaints by other lawyers because he was taking business away from them, not dissatisfied clients. And it was basically people that didn't like the fact that this guy was getting a bunch of business. And they said public complaints. There was no public complaints. But the really cool thing was when he was arrested and they had him dead to rights on the law. Well, Kenya has jury trials. And because this Kenyan is such a charismatic, likable guy, even though he was technically guilty, like unbelievably guilty of everything, the jury liked him so much they acquitted him. And it kind of reminds me of that, like Frank Avondale Jr. in Catch Me If You Can. Like that guy actually passed the Louisiana bar. He didn't cheat. He passed the bar, and he was, 21 years old when he did it and worked for the Attorney General, and he was able to pretend to be a doctor, and he was an FBI consultant for 30 years, something like that. So I just think these stories are cool because what bothers me is that if you're going to go after this guy, there has to be a victim. There's no victim. He won every single case. There's no one that was hurt by him pretending to be a lawyer, right? So people are like, well, the rules rule. Yeah, but the rules are there to protect people from being exploited. All he did was help people, and there wasn't a single person that wasn't in a better position because of what he did. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you said he was acquitted?
Yeah,
because he convinced the
was
jury?
so good, yeah.
I mean, can we just give him an honorary license or whatever? Is that the way to do it? I mean, that's straight up jury nullification though, which is the thing. I mean, that's why it's one reason we have jury process.
Yeah, but that's the case where the jury should nullify because
exactly. Well, yeah, but I mean, that's what I mean. That's part of the jury process.
Yeah, I just think it's cool, and they should make a movie of this guy, and he should definitely be a lawyer. So that was my favorite story of the week.
That would be a good movie. I do like that idea because Catch Me If You Can was a good movie. So
one of the best.
Turn that into a movie. All right, Christopher Reed, host of The Daily Controversy. Check out his show, 8 to 10 p.m. on WVNN. Of course, check out the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. And I will be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
The CJ Pearson Show.
Every week, we'll take on the biggest cultural, political, and moral battles in America head on.
CJ presents the most passionate voices in the Black community.
When you're going around and talking to people in actual communities, you get to know what people actually care about.
As a Black man, why can't I be the first one in my family to graduate from college? Why can't it be me?
Yeah.
Shift the way that I think about the world.
Bold truth, real conviction, zero permission. This is the CJ Pearson Show.
The CJ Pearson Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.